Welcome to the Wise and Happy Life podcast, where ancient wisdom meets modern science, and mindfulness, philosophy, and happiness practices blend with neuroscience, compassion, and common sense. Hosted by Bob Martin, meditation mentor, happiness coach, trial lawyer, and entrepreneur. This podcast explores how to live with grace, presence, and purpose in a complex world.
Hey, good people. Welcome to another episode of A Wise and Happy Life. And we're going to continue on in our conversation with Tom Meyers, who's here to talk to us about futurizing yourself and how we can change our future by changing our story. And Tom, it's good to have you back. Let's keep going in our conversation. So when we left in part one, we were talking about the old expression of think globally but act locally, the idea of looking at the future of the planet but yet doing what we personally can to contribute to a eustasis, which is a word that you used, which talks to the balance between man and nature, between society and culture, but also it seems to me that also applies to balance within ourselves. Maybe the word doesn't, but I often think of balancing, the left side and right side, the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, the stress response with, joy and happiness, awe and connection.
But it comes from there. Yeah, it comes from there, doesn't it? It comes from homeostasis is finding the balance within, but there's very small changes, pH in our blood, for example. Then you have allostasis, which comes from the stress response, where the changes to keep the balance is higher, and like lots of adrenaline suddenly or cortisol, and that needs to be built down again in the relaxation recuperation modus. Now, so that's all internal. Now, what I'm talking about is that internal and the external world, and that is the eustasis. But for that, indeed, that internal world, and especially our stress response, which is in an evolutionary mismatch that we also mentioned in the first episode, that stress response is making us sick at the moment. Right? Because, like I say, the stress response has become a stressor itself because it's being activated for things that don't need a physical fight or flight response. Like, I don't have any internet anymore, or when you have a lot of workload, that's not the moment actually where your prefrontal cortex is deactivated, because the blood in there needs to go to the central parts to fight and flight. No, in that moment, when you have a lot of work and you have a lot of thinking to do and decisions to make, that's exactly when you need blood or to have glucose and oxygen into that prefrontal cortex, right? But it's taken away. Right when you need it. And that is the problem.
Yeah, let me ask you this question. I often think, and tell me what you think about this, that what the stress response evolved for, was the kind of dangers that we faced in the jungle, which was acute, like a tiger, and it was intense, it was strong, and it was identifiable. And I say, oh, the tiger, or it's a snake, or it's this, or it's a rat, or it's a spider in the baby's food. That it was identifiable and it was acute and it had to be dealt with right then. And we had to use energy and use up our adrenaline and our sugar and the like to deal with the situation. But today, the dangers that create the same physiological responses in us are not acute and identifiable. They're chronic and non-identifiable. It's 100 different things. It's the getting the kid to the school on time and paying my bill and meeting a deadline and all of those things. And there's so many of them. A lot of people in my class, in my meditation class, they always say, oh, my mind's wandering. My mind's going all over the place. Well, it's going all over the place because it's trying to find and identify the danger that it feels but it's chronic and not identifiable, so we never can really focus on it and solve it. And what do you think about that? Do you think that that's pretty
Yes,
accurate?
totally right. Let's say that our body is an anticipation machine, right? It's
I
always
love that. I love that.
it's an anticipation, always what? Not always negative things, always what is dangerous. It never ever is going to say from, oh, let's anticipate positive things. And I compare it with like digestion is something that is automatic, but you need to eat, right? Positive things you need to do, you need to imagine, you need to, you need to create that. Meditation doesn't come to you, you need to do it. Stress comes automatic,
Right. Yeah.
right?
No, that's
And
really.
and so, and that is again that dichotomy of, of automatic and doing. And what is automatic today is constant, and the doing is less and less and less.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a conflict that we need to solve.
Yeah, and one of the things about doing is we need to do things kind of repetitively and build them up until they become like muscle memory. Bruce Lee once said, "I don't fear the man that's practiced 10,000 kicks. I fear the man that's practiced one kick 10,000 times."
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And also we've become so used to being given everything, right? So it has to come to us. We don't have to come into it. So I see that with patients a lot as well. So okay, you what do they come for? So I ask them, what do you want? And they don't know. They say from, I don't want this. I say from, that's not my question. I say from, what do you want? They know what they don't want. So again, they go always towards the negative side. They rarely go to the positive side.
Mm-hmm.
Say from, think about it. Think about what you want. Because if you don't know what you want, how can you make decisions, choices, and actions that actually get you what you want? If you don't know what you want, you're always going to do sort of a behavior that is avoiding that. But that's
Mm-hmm.
not constructive.
Right, right. So you've developed some ways to deal with this chronic undifferentiated stress. Among them are things like hand gestures and touch. Tell us about
Yeah.
what you've developed that can help us de-stress a little bit.
Well, first of all, as a practitioner, as an osteopath, I integrate autonomic regulation within my treatment approach, which is mainly based on the head. I discovered that because patients were commenting, and that was already 18 years ago when I started as an osteopath, that, Tom, you're doing something different. And we come to you for physical complaints, but why can I think better? And why can I make better decisions? Why do I have more time? I have the same amount of stress, but it's like, it doesn't bother me anymore. What did you do? So it stems from there. And I distilled then, there were points on the head that I was touching, which is similar to craniosacral therapy, but the intention and the attention are different. That if you touch these parts to allow them to unwind under your fingers, that actually that was making the difference. But in a very concrete way, if you are having a conversation with somebody and you can't remember a name, which part of your head do you touch? Well, you put your hand on your front and you start rubbing your front. What was that name again? Who was that again? And then after a while, it comes back. Now, when you've done something that you shouldn't have done, the tendency is that you go with a hand behind your head, behind your ear, and you start scratching occiput, so the back of your head and the neck. It's like it's an instinct. And the other part is that when you're tension stress, you start to rub your temples and hold your face. Oh, got a difficult time. So you have the frontal, you have the temples with your face, with your cheeks touching them, and you have the back of your head. And so these are the points that I'm mainly also unwinding within a patient that is lying on my treatment table before I do treatment. And it's a bit more complex than that, but let's keep it simple. Now, but I'm seeing that, but we can do this to ourselves while we're doing a breathing exercise. What do we do with our hands when we are breathing? Some people do a mudra from, the Hakini mudra is to putting all your fingers together, or you have other these hand digital modes from India,
You
from
used the
yoga.
word. I want to take a second and define it for people that haven't heard. You use the word mudra. Okay, so can you
Yes.
tell us what that is?
A mudra is like a gesture with your hands. So most of the time is you put, for example, the thumb and the index finger together. And then you see people having them their hands on their laps, and then it starts breathing. And this creates energetic circuits. So these mudras, there are different mudras for different functions in the body to circulate or activate. That is a mudra. And you see, for example, a lot of Mutti we say, but she was the German Chancellor in Germany, who put her fingers always together. When she's thinking or talking to somebody, that we put all our fingers together and then listen. And it's just like it activates something in our brain or in our breathing that makes us better listeners. So to concentrate. But this is what we can do, for example, when we are breathing, a heart rate variability. So 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. What do we do with our hands? Now we can put them on our temples and on our face. And then what I do most of the time is I have my large finger, so my middle finger on my temple. I have my index finger behind my ear and my thumbs on my neck. And so it's like cupping your face and then doing the breathing exercise. And then I let that touch also fill me up with a sense of security and safety, because that's what it's doing. So if you, like a child, when you have a child that's in distress and it's crying, and you can talk to it all you want, but there will be no coherent word coming out of it. And then you just grab it, you set it on your lap, and you start rubbing the head. And it's always in the same direction. It's always from the front to the back. And when you do the face, it's always up to down. You never do down up, right? This is instinct.
Right.
And so this, what you do with the touch, you don't squeeze too hard. No, you create this kind of, comforting mode. And then at one stage, the child is going to lower the breathing, the breathing is going to be lower, the heart rate is going to drop. Suddenly the kid calms down by creating that environment and by touching. And then you can say okay, what happened? And then he will or she will tell you what happened in a coherent way. So all of this is important. The touch, where you touch, you all do that instinctively, but my God, that's like self-treatment. That is there and then. There's something we can do on ourselves as well to actually help us, that stress response to calm down, which has no language as verbal language. It's older than verbal language, and the only thing we will understand is touch.
Yeah,
Safety.
Kristen
Or no.
Neff, Kristen Neff, who I call the guru of self-compassion. She really has some beautiful things, and she's a very soft and compassionate lady. Has a 4-step process of being of self-compassion. But the important thing to what you're saying is that she always reminds us that we're mammals, and mammals touch is important. And in the 4th step of her self-compassion process, she advises stroking ourselves, either stroking the back of our arm or just putting our hands over our heart and reminding ourselves that, that we're worthy and the like. And so touch, I just bring that up to say that we are mammals, and touch is just important to the mammalian family. So what you're saying, maps on with what everybody agrees to.
Yeah, but
And
just touching the head,
hugging too.
hugging. But touching the head is something we rarely do, and it's probably that is adding something very specific, but it works instantaneously nearly, because if you look at where you place your hands, there are parts of the brain of the the neurology that actually are so important or are activated in a stress response that need deactivating. Like the temples, you have the amygdala 1 centimeter or 2 centimeters inside. In the sphenoid bone, which is the temples, there is the pituitary gland, which is important for the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. And then you have the neck where the vagus nerve comes out. So all of this becomes quite, let's say, regulatory if you touch it, because of the anatomical structures that are involved in the stress response that you are actually interacting with. And also the face, you have the face, nervus facialis, which has parasympathetic nerves. So all of that has an importance, because, and we only need to do that to ourselves or to somebody else a little bit more, because the stress response is something that is automatic, and this is what we need to do and can help us. So I've done, for example, what I do today is like, I have patients from about 12 o'clock in my practice. I stop writing and preparing for courses at 11. I do a bit of exercises, like a bit of pumping, a little of abdominals, maybe a little of running in my cabinet, just without moving, so up and down, or rope skipping. And then I do my heart rate variability breathing exercise with the touch. And I have a M wave. So I put on my lobe, I put a monitor, so I can monitor if I'm in coherence or not. And so I'm taking myself out of coherence because of the exercise and into coherence due to my breathing and my touch. And then I go and eat. I have my lunch, and because also lunch in a stress state, well, in a chronic stress state, digestion is inhibited, right? So I first get myself into coherence, and then I eat, so that I know that my system, my autonomic regulatory system, is actually capable to digest my food.
So I think there's a lesson here that we don't want to pass over. I think that this, what you're saying right now, is an important tip for folks that are listening. Here's a guy, Tom, here's a guy who is trained, has been working at taking care of folks and practicing his profession for more than 18 years,
18
right?
years, yeah.
And still, before going in and doing his work, which is working with patients, he takes all these steps to make sure that he's in the right frame to be able to be present for his patients. I mean, just think about how most of us live our lives. We're going into a meeting and we rush from one thing that we were doing, and we jump up from our computers and go run into the meeting, and we're not emotionally, we're not coherent, we're not set for it. And then all of a sudden, we have to be present and listen. Who does that? We don't. We want to say what we want to say and go on to the next thing. And Tom, I think that is that's a very important lesson that we don't want to skip over. I think, first of all, I admire you for taking all of those steps, and the love that you have to have for your patients in order to have the discipline that you have, in order to make sure that you're in the right frame of mind to be able to listen to them and to hear what they have to say, and so that you can respond not from your own ego state, but from an appropriate response to their energy. I think that's just beautiful.
Yeah, and also I say from my morning, so I'm behind my desk at 8 o'clock. Before that, I cycle to work. That's about 5 kilometers. I make my coffee, then I eat around 11. But before that, that's my time, right? No patients. I do my writing because that's important to me. I'm a communicated teacher that needs preparation. As soon as I have done one patient, it's finished. I can't do that anymore because my brain doesn't work in that anymore. It's like very compartmentalized in what I can do. So I had to learn how I was functioning and how I separate my day into all of these activities to give him the best moments, right? I can do patients from 12 to 7. That's the best moment for me. The morning is best moment for writing. So I really created a sort of, routine that suits also me to be in the best form for my patients, but also at home for my girlfriend and for my social life, right? It's not
Okay.
all
So
about my patients.
so let me now relate that to futurizing yourself. So you have a lot of things. You've looked at your DNA. You have
Yeah,
decided what your potentials are, what it is that you want
yeah,
to do, what things serve that. Your morning
yeah.
routine, the cycling, the taking these steps, that all serves the potential of what you have. Now, how does that relate to futurizing yourself? And tell us maybe a little bit about the book as well.
Yeah, futurizing yourself is at the end of the day, at the end of my days, right? What do I want to look back at, right? And uh, I want to be content, fulfilled, and healthy. And I would have realized my aspirations as best as I can. And I discovered that I'm a man with a mission that needs to put that mission into action to be healthy and to flourish and thrive. So if I look at the future from now on, and I think what I want is eustasis, that kind of balance between biology and culture, to be a widespread concept that everybody can benefit from worldwide, until even into space. I love that my techniques are taking up into space one day. So to do that, so I have the futurize yourself. That is where, that is what I'm working towards. That is my focus points. I'm a therapist, communicator, teacher, researcher, and traveler that can inspire people, and to help people to evolve on purpose, right? That's the idea, that I am that person in the future, but that the future is in the next minute. That should be my focus point. So within that, there is a lot of scope of how that is expressed. So my day, my life is dedicated to that very
Mhm.
seriously. And is it limiting? No, it's not limiting. But I know if I don't do that, if I deviate slightly, I get sick. And then who benefits from that? Nobody, right? And so it's about doing that which is in my element and that I actually feel great doing. I have
Mhm.
great days, right? I'm content, even if difficult moments. This life is not easy, but it's even difficult if you don't have a future. It is more difficult because then if you don't have futurized yourself and you don't know where you're going, then there is no meaning and purpose. Then difficulties become really, hard and difficult on you. So, and the book describes that, how to create that DNA for your future. What are the elements? And why is that so important that you think about that? Because again, it does not come to you.
Mhm.
Many people are always saying, "Oh, but you're so lucky, you have found your purpose." Sorry, I'm not lucky. I worked hard, and it's not that I found it. I gave it. I just did the homework.
Yeah, no, to
And
bring this down to a personal level, my wife and I just celebrated our 24th anniversary.
well,
And
congratulations.
one of the things that we, have been joking about a lot is she often said, because I do all the cooking and she does all the bookkeeping, she says, if I die first, you're going to be lost in the finances. And if you die first, I'm going to starve to death. Um, and so the idea of being here for each other has become important to us, so that we are futurizing our relationship because we're thinking, I want to be around. And just recently, we had our 24th anniversary, and we made it a goal to celebrate our 50th anniversary when we're 101 years old. And so now I have to think about that piece of chocolate that I want, and do I really need it, and is that going to help me get to my 50th anniversary with my wife? And doing it, I think, for someone else, like you do it for your patients, and that's a big motivator because, as you said, you have a mission. And even if our mission, even if we're retired and we're not working anymore, our mission still can be to be there for our loved ones, and to have the best life that we can possibly have so that we can be as present and as giving and as generous with the ones that we love and care about as we can for as long as we can.
Yeah, and then some people see that as selfish, or some people in my patients as well. Yeah, I'm focusing on me, and I know it's very selfish. They say, "Is that really selfish? If you take care of yourself, well, don't you think that it helps other people around you that you encounter?" Yeah. So I think we always give, and then we are empty. No, we have to be well so we can give to others. We have to be well so that others that are around us also are able to have our help, right? And I think we underestimate how much we are a society, right? How much we are together. If you go onto the space station and you look down, I can't see me. I can't see me, but I'm there. And so if I'm on the space station, I can't see you, rather, because I won't be there. But I can see it. But if I look at my arm, there's thousands, 100,000 of cells that I can't see, but they're all there. They're all important, all working together. So above, so below. Right?
Say that again.
So above, so below.
Uh-huh.
Right? So if I'm in the space station and I'm looking down, I can't see people, but they are there, working together somewhere, making that global and that globe function somewhere and do the things what it does. Now, if I look at my arm and at my body, that is the same thing. I can't see my cells, but they're all working together to make its mission complete. That body, so that is also saying from these are working together. The cells around it are supporting each other. If that support system doesn't work, there is an immune system that is going to come. My heart is pumping blood to that area so it can have its nutritional values. Well, isn't this the same thing than how we function as a society, as human beings together? Yes, we are. And so we need each other. We are not individuals, right?
Yeah, Deepak Chopra put it this way. He said, as is the microcosm, so is the macrocosm.
Exactly. And that dates from much before him. So it's not him that invented that. But as we're seeing that everybody has a potential. So if my skin cell wants to be a heart cell and starts to migrate, well, it's not going to function, is it? It's going to have a lot of stress onto it. The surrounding cells is going to reject it because it's not in its right place. Well, what do you think is happening with us? If we are not in our potential, if we are not in our element, well, we feel also that our environment is maybe pushing us a little bit away, right? And so that's where all of this futurize yourself, DNA for your future, eustasis, stress response, osteopathy, because sometimes we need treatment. We need physical treatment because even for psychological problems, not all mental health problems are psychological. They're also biological. That needs first autonomic regulation through manual therapy, integrated osteopathy, or something else. And that way, becoming more in our element, that we can think better, that we can evolve with more purpose and intention to flourish and thrive. Because is that not what we want as people? We want to flourish and thrive, but that is not given to us. That is something we need to do, activate, and that takes responsibility.
So what I'm taking away from our talking is, one, we have to realize that there's an evolutionary mismatch in that we're not designed for this particular society, culture that we're living in. And we have to take active steps in order to readjust our homeostasis as well as our eustasis. In other words, the balance within us and the balance in society. We have to take active steps to maintain that. That we are mammals and that touch is important, and that we need to take steps to auto-regulate and to be present. We need to take care of ourselves. And the one thing that I'd still like you to talk to a little bit is this idea of changing your story to change your future.
Yeah. Then we get back to that metaphor, right? Where we spoke about the metaphor that we are using the wrong metaphors. And so what metaphors are we living by? And that is, I used to say I'm good for nothing, for example. That was because what I was seeing, what I was doing, I was really not good at anything. Some moments I've disappointed my dad, and he said to me, oh, you're good for nothing. I can't even be proud of you, which were moments of crisis, right? He didn't really mean it, but I remember it being said. And so I was good for nothing, and the rest of my life I will be good for nothing. Well, that's a story I told myself, right? But look where I am today. Right? I'm a thought leader. I'm making global change. I'm an osteopath. I'm making people well, and so forth and so forth. I'm an author. Well, I can't say anymore that I'm good for nothing, but I had to accept at one stage through the coaching, and indeed that's where I needed that other perspective from a person who told me that it's not because you're good for nothing now that you can't be good at something.
I gotcha. And it's little changes in perception that help. I had a student who was always complaining, oh, I have this, I have to do this, and I have to do that, and I have an exam, and I have another project, and I have to go and try to find a job. And I just suggested to her at one point, why don't you substitute the word get for have? So you don't say I have to take a test, say I get to take a test. And she stood up, and you could see like the change come over her face. She goes, yeah, it's true. Now, of course, she had already evolved to the point where she could accept that change. And that's not something that you will map on to everybody. There had to be some preliminary work where she was ready to accept that suggestion. Because you might say the same thing to another person. They go, yeah, no, I don't get that at all. But she got it, and it changed the way that she saw things. And I got a letter from her a couple of years later, and she said that she's never said that she had to do anything again for the rest of her life. And it changed her future, because now she'll take things on. So that's changing your story, change your future.
So in that moment when you're changing that story, when you're changing the metaphor, the future changes. That is so important.
And like you say, the change, that happened for her in a moment, and it took no effort. It was a suggestion, and she made the change, and it happened instantly, and there was but as you say, it doesn't come without the preliminary work. You have to go out and prepare yourself for change. Then when the change comes, it seems like somebody once said, everything goes slowly until it goes fast.
Yeah.
So, Tom, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Tell folks where they can go to find all of your books and everything else. You have a website. What's the URL?
Yeah, futurizeyourself.com or meyerstom.com. You can get to my place. Also, LinkedIn. Find me on LinkedIn. That's a good place to always connect with me.
Well, I've gone to your website, and I've seen some things. Are there any offers on your website? Anything that people can go and download? I think that you offer the first chapter of one of your books as a free download. Is that right?
That's a free download. Yes, and there is a lot of like in the blog part, there's a lot of things that I've written about. Also on LinkedIn, for example, there is a newsletter where my second book was completely serialized. So for people who want to have it for free, you go to my LinkedIn page, you can find every single chapter there in a newsletter. That is the Fitful Futures Explorer.
Well, folks, if you're here on this side of the pond, as they say, and you wanted to visit with Tom, it might be a little hard, because I'll remind you that he's in Brussels. And so that might be a long thing, but you can read about him and you can contact him through the website. And there's a lot of really great information. So if the conversation today stimulated you, if you want to know more about it, please visit his website and take a look at some of his books and check out the free downloads. And are you available if somebody wants to contact you by email or?
I am always available.
Always available.
I'm a very, WhatsApp or email. It's the best way to get in touch with me. And I always respond to people. And also, if people want to invite me for a talk, they're always welcome. This is the life that I do.
Well, Tom, I want to thank you for the love that you have for your environment, for the people, your patients, and the world in general. To devote yourself to sharing your wisdom is all about, well, having a wise and happy life. So thank you so much for being on the podcast, Tom, and everyone else. Check out the blogs of Tom's, check my blogs out. And there's a lot to be learned and a lot to think about and a lot of work to be done. There's no time to sit on our duffs. Take care, and I'll see you on the other side.